I've done a sabbatical on the weekend. I know there's some areas of poor pasture where it's that compact that the grass isn't growing. Have a close look here. There's bare dirt there. There. So what are the benefits of applying hay on the ground like this than a hay rack? Because this is compact, it doesn't get the chance for those root systems to penetrate and get any height about it. You're also creating those microscopic voids when it does break down. It doesn't break down in the rumen, obviously. Will get distributed in the manure. Microbes can then use that for food, take it back into the ground, and what you're doing is you're building up your organic matter in the soil. Times of drought, you've got a reservoir of water that the plants then can pull on and use. What you're doing is you're lessening the effect of compaction, pressing weeds. When you've got bare soil, all Mother Nature wants to do is cover herself down, creates velocity again and causes erosion. Good soil to seed contact. With the clove feet of a livestock, when they walk, those of you who are questioning compaction and you see me drive that tractor and bring this hay over. G'day folks, Jason from the Udder Farm. We're actually on the Udder Farm property today. What I'm going to be doing is, I've got 5 mulch bales of hay here which have been sitting around in the shed for the last 4 years. So what I'll be doing with them is I've done a sabbatical on the weekend. I know there's some areas of poor pasture where it's that compact that the grass isn't growing. What I'm going to do is put the mulch over top and armour that ground and build that topsoil level up. What I'll do is also run through why I'm doing it as I'm rolling the hay out and the benefits of putting it on bad areas. Also, this is one of those areas I'm going to put out a bale of mulch. I'll go over and give you a closer look why I'm doing it here. If you can see here, there's patches, they're probably 1/2 foot, 3/4 of a foot high, and those are a foot high over there. If you have a close look here, there's bare dirt there. There. We go all the way through here. Here, there's no armour on this ground at all. There, grows a foot high. Because this is compact, it doesn't get the chance for those root systems to penetrate and get any height about it. So this is one of those areas. You can see where Butchie is, all the way around there, sporadically down through there, all the way down to that fence and back to where just in front of that bale starts to get a bit better. When I do mine, I like to only keep it around about that 8 inches in height, not in big chunks. When the rain gets on it, it'll push it down to around that inch high. And that still allows a little bit of sunlight to get through. The last thing I want to do is pack it on too thick. And then normally what I'd be doing, if it was good hay and I know the livestock are eating it, I'd spread it all out, I'd bring the livestock in and they would eat probably that 2/3 of that hay. When they tromp on it with their feet, urinate and manure all over it, they leave those portions, and those portions go back into the ground because it's obviously been soiled on, and that the seeds and the fertility in the manure and the urine and the minerals into the soil, keeping the mulch on top like this, allows that manure to break down slowly. The microbes and worms come up and get it and take it through. They're protected. Because you're holding the moisture for longer, it gives the chance of whatever seeds were in this ground to start with that's too dry because it's compact to germinate because the water is staying there longer. So what are the benefits of applying hay on the ground like this than a hay rack? Firstly, I showed you the bare soil. What you're doing is you are armouring the soil. You're giving it protection for when it did rain on the weekend. instead of the sun directly hitting these thin areas of pasture or the soil directly and drying it out, you're armouring it so the sun hits the armour, and what's underneath, you're adding that thermal insulator so the moisture stays in the ground for longer to give whatever plants or pasture is here a chance to grow, because it holds more moisture. So by holding more moisture in the ground, what that allows is, there would have been a natural seed bank here to start with. What that does is, because it's so thin in pasture at the moment, it dries out that fast that those seeds don't get a chance to germinate. Not only that, this is barley straw. We know there's some barley heads amongst it. When you lay that out and you're holding the moisture in the ground for longer, those seeds in that barley straw then have a chance to germinate, and when they come to head, the cows come through them, eat them, and then that distributes that seed through the pasture as well. What doesn't break down in the rumen obviously will get distributed in the manure, so those manure pats become fertility, because the goodness in that manure helps not only germinate the seed, it fertilises and makes it grow. And also the worms and the microbes take that manure into the ground to feed what other plants are around it, that nutrients or minerals that they require from the manure. And because it's had thatch around it, you're holding the moisture there, so that also gives a lift off on that plant as well that's already existing in the ground. It's not going to happen overnight, but what you're doing is you're building up the organic matter in the soil. When this breaks down on the ground, the soil microbes then and the worms can then come up as it's decaying, and they use that as a food source. They take that into the ground, they drag it back in, and when that organic matter gets into the ground, it slowly breaks down, and what it does is it creates microscopic voids. So not only is it beneficial for foods for the microbes, you're also creating those microscopic voids when it does break down, and the organic matter in the ground, that creates holes. So when it rains, the rain can go through and fill up those microscopic voids where the organic matter is broken down, and that then holds that water, and you've got a water bank in the soil. The more organic matter you can get in the ground and it's breaking down, the more microscopic holes, like a sponge, you can hold moisture for longer. So in those times of drought, you've got a reservoir of water that the plants then can pull on and use to grow back. And building up organic matter isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to take years, but remember, it took hundreds of years for us to get in this predicament in the first place, through overgrazing and poor agricultural management of our properties. If you don't start now, it's not going to get any better. I'm doing it for generations down the track. Also, I'll get the benefit of it now because I know these seeds will germinate, create organic matter, and within a couple of years I'll have nice pasture through here. Also, what you're doing is you're lessening the effect of compaction. Rain is the worst compaction you can get on a property. When it gets up speed, it picks velocity, hits that ground, really compacts that soil. It's continuous hit, 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 hit. Compaction, compaction, compaction. With an armour on the ground, if you've got good pasture, like in the behind me there, it's a foot high, it hits that pasture, slows the velocity, seeps through to the ground. It doesn't compact the soil. Here where it's, I showed you where it's bare dirt and just that slight run of a cooch, it's full compaction. So what this is also doing is limiting the compaction you've got on your soil. The rain will hit that armour now that we've laid out in that mulch hay, stop the velocity, seep through into the ground. So if you're stopping compaction, the water's not only stop compaction hitting that soil, but because it's compact, the water can't get in. You're stopping runoff, and when you get runoff in mass amounts like hilly areas, it runs down, creates velocity again, and causes erosion. So you're eliminating that. Also, what it does is you're suppressing weeds. When you got bare soil, all Mother Nature wants to do is cover herself. She doesn't want to be exposed to the elements. She wants to cover herself to hold the moisture in, to stop getting hot, stop that soil surface getting hot. This, forget what I was up to then. That's right. It's a weed suppression. While the sun can't get through, because you've covered it, Mother Nature knows it's covered. And it suppresses the weeds and doesn't pop up weeds because you've covered it for her. It's like having a bare naked skin. No skin, you're going to get sunburnt. Same thing on the ground. It pulls the moisture out of the soil, dries it out. Now she's covered, she doesn't need a pop of weeds. We go to other areas of my property which I haven't got armoured and throw up weeds there because I know I've got the protection over here. The more seeds I can germinate from the native and the hay, the more good pasture comes up, the less weeds. Eventually this will be fully covered out, thick pasture, and Mother Nature won't have to do anything because I've armoured her with good pasture instead of compact soil and no pasture. There's only one thing better I could do than just let it sit here and break down itself. I could bring the livestock in. What they do is they will eat probably 2/3 of this, and what they've trampled on with their hoos that they've spoilt, and also the patches where they've urinated and manured on, they won't eat either. And what that adds that mineral back into the soil through the manure and through the urine. You get that concentration of mineral because all the cattle will come over, they'll be eating this hay, and you get a concentration in this area. So you're adding that extra fertility to the soil. So what pasture is there and seeds you put in the ground can grab that extra nutrients and grow back. But not only that, any additional seeds which I'm adding through this barley, like the barley seeds, you're getting the impact from the cattle to get that good soil to seed contact. With the clove feet of a livestock, when they walk, the clove feet on a livestock, come a bit closer, they actually part and they push into the soil when they part. So what they're doing is they're actually breaking the crust on that soil, and as they break that hard crust and there's seeds under their hooves, they're pushing that into the softer soil below. And because they're feeding in a mass mob, the other cows will come around and they're walking over it, and it gets the soil will then be trampled on by someone else, and you get a fine layer of soil over that seed. So you're getting good seed to soil contact. Because I know they don't eat this mulch hay, it's been sitting in the shed for ages, and I know for a fact that we've found rats and that under it, so it really stinks like mice and rats. I know they don't eat it because I've tried it. I'm not going to have that benefit, but the rain will, when it breaks down, it'll push that seed into the soil. And when the cows do come through eventually, that seed bank will stay until such time it gets good seed to soil contact, and then it'll germinate. For those of you who are questioning compaction and you see me drive that tractor and bring this hay over, the weight of that tractor is adding compaction to the ground. But you think about it, you're not covering 100% of the property with tractor all year round ever. Even when you slash, you've got your particular route you go across. There's areas that your tractor doesn't even touch. But you think about the effect of rain. Rain affects 100% of your property. Rain does not discriminate, it falls everywhere. And it's not only, this may be back and forwards twice and I slashed it. This might not see a tractor until next year. The rain, whenever it happens, half an hour, 8 hours, days on end, that's 100% all the time, days on end when we get floods. Not discriminative, 100% of your property, and that's why compaction is so bad. It falls and it's continuous. Unlike the vehicle travels on the quads where you're limited to where you go all year round. It's 100% compaction when it comes to rain all the time. So that's 2 bales of mulch hay over that area now. So when that rain comes now, it's definitely going to stop compaction and hold that moisture in. The principles I work by every time I see bare soil are these. It's bare naked, it's thirsty, it's hungry, and it's running a fever. So I relate that to kids. Say I've got children, just say they were in the sun for hours on end with no clothes on. What's going to happen? One, they're going to get sunburnt because it's bare ground, bare skin, exactly like the soil. It's going to heat up, running a fever because they're hot. They're going to dehydrate. That much sun on the kid's skin with no clothes in direct sunlight with no sunscreen, they're going to dehydrate. Exactly the same soil. They're thirsty. It's pulling the moisture out. Hungry, after a while, if you haven't fed that child, as we know what teenagers are like, they're going to be craving. They're going to be absolute monsters. The same as the soil microbes. If you're not feeding the microbes, if you haven't got grass on the ground in that vegetative state, catching the carbon dioxide in the sunlight and pumping that liquid carbon into the ground, feeding the microbes, and also the soil. The soil is dry. The moment you put a layer over it, the moisture stays there. And then running a fever and thirsty, because you've got the thatch over it, it's keeping it cooler. It's a thermal insulator. So the microbes and all the soil life and the worms can actually move closer to the surface where the plant roots are and feed that plant under protection. Hungry, as that breaks down, like I said, not only liquid carbon from the sunlight and carbon dioxide that the leaf are pumping into the ground, this mulch is breaking down, feeding those microbes, like I said. And what else? I think there was bare naked, we've covered that. Hungry, we've covered that. Thirsty, we've covered that. And running a fever, we've covered that. So think of yourself, if you've got no clothes on, got no sunscreen, in your direct sunlight, middle of the day, how are you going to feel? And that's the way I look at the ground, because at the end of the day, it's a living organism. The plant is living, the microbes are living, the soil is life. There's no different to us. I won't rant about that or keep going on. I'm very passionate about this. I've got to do my other chores now. I've still got another 3 more bales I've got to put out. So have a good morning, have a terrific afternoon, and an awesome evening, guys, wherever you're watching this from, and we'll catch you later. And remember, Sandra's watching, not long now.